In this series, we're constantly searching for the answer to one question. What truly makes a house a home? And in today's featured alternative home tour, you're going to step inside one couple's beautifully designed, renovated school bus. And I challenge you, while watching this video, to answer that question. And I want to remind you that we're still practicing social distancing, so this video was completely self-shot by the owners. All right, guys, let's take a tour.
This house our tiny home.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Tawny.
And welcome to our home.
I've always had kind of a wanderlusty side, and I always wanted to travel, like all good ideas. It started on Pinterest. I showed it to Mike and he was like, no. And then we watched Expedition Happiness, which is a documentary about a couple that turns a bus into a home. Mike and I watched it together and he was like, okay, so that is kind of cool. And we talked about it, and by the next week, the wheels were in motion.
For me, it definitely took convincing because I was afraid to lose our big house and the life that we had built. When we started looking into like how much money you could save and how much more free of a lifestyle you could have, the pros definitely outweighed the cons.
It was a year from the time we found the bus to the time it was done. We had put our business and our house up for sale right away. We had jumped all in and started on the bus. The house had been sold, everything, and then the sale of the house fell through 2 days before closing and threw our finances into a complete mess. And so Oliver just sat half finished in the backyard for probably a good 5 or 6 months until we were able to get everything completely wrapped up and finished and dive back in. And then of course the bus had its own share of challenges. You buy a bus and you tear it apart and you go to put it back together and you don't really know what you're working with until you have it torn apart.
We wanted the front of the bus to feel like part of our home rather than just the cockpit or the driver's seat. So we installed a bunch of hooks for things like coats and car keys and our shoes. And we also have 2 panels that we put in. They act as kind of a faux wall in the front windows. They help for insulation during cold weather, and we can also hang artwork on it. This is our living room. It's actually quite a bit different than when we first built the bus. Originally we had a different couch here, and there used to be 2 bunk beds there.
We share custody of them with their father. And so even if we were in town in a stick-built house the way we used to be, half the time they're not here.
ultimately you have bunk beds in a 6-foot tall bus, so you don't really have very much headroom. It actually gave them less space. They didn't like being confined to the bunk beds, and now that mantle folds down into an extra Murphy bed or another couch. Essentially, when the other Murphy bed is down, there's 2 couches facing each other, so it gives the kids a place to sleep, and then it also gives us, as a family, a way to hang out together. And under this couch, there's plenty of storage.
So our kitchen is an L shape with the fridge offset to one side. The reason we did an L shape is because we wanted to be able to put an eating bar in, and so by having the L, we were able to put stackable stools on the other side that very easily slide under and give us kind of a breakfast nook. The countertops themselves are made of a feather finish concrete. It's not poured, so it's not heavy. It's wood forms with a feather finish over it. The kitchen also features an almost full-size fridge and a 3-burner range. They were a mismatch set that we happened to find on the cheap. We used some metallic rose gold paint to give them kind of a similar look. The kitchen also has an apothecary shelf that runs the length of it. That's where I put all of the herbs that we use for DIY body care and teas. And then we also have a secondary pantry shelf that's on the other side of the fridge. It's also where our Berkey filter sits. And in that we keep most of our like dry goods and stuff.
The Starwood stove, it's actually been quite a blessing this winter. No matter how cold it's gotten outside, it's been able to keep the bus pretty warm. We got it from a friend of ours for $40, and they found it sitting outside their shop when they bought their new house. Normally, the stove would have to sit farther away from the wall, but we installed cement fiberboard behind, and then Tawny's dad built us this heat shield as a spacer. The bathroom is pretty large for Skoolie standards. We designed it as a large wet room, that way we'd have plenty of space to take a shower. We have a shower head, a composting toilet, and a sink, and a bathtub, which we use the shower hose to fill up.
In the back of the bus is our bedroom. We have a queen-size bed that sits on top of a platform with a ton of storage space underneath, including 3 large drawers that hold the majority of our clothes. We also have a closet system for hanging our clothes on the opposite wall. In the very back of the bus, instead of walling off the engine compartment, we left it open, and it's kind of like a built-in reading nook for when we want to curl up. It's especially nice when we can back the bus up into parking spots and have a really beautiful view out that back window. The rooftop deck is also accessible through the hatch in this room. Surprisingly, downsizing and living tiny wasn't the hard part. I thought it would be. We had a 3-story house with 5 bedrooms before, and I mean, I really thought that like moving from 2,200 square feet to 200 square feet was going to be a lot more challenging, but it wasn't. We actually wound up with room to spare.
I think the most important thing that we learned was patience, because there were so many times where we felt like giving up or ditching the idea or just abandoning the project altogether. But ultimately, our perseverance and finally getting to live the lifestyle that we were trying to create was well worth all of the time and the money and the effort. One of the best parts about living on the bus is that typically we can travel whenever we want. We can literally be anywhere at any time.
Instead of going into the process thinking, here's my plan and this is exactly how it will play out, I would just tell you, you need to be very adaptable because your plan will change. But as far as like our lifestyle now, I wouldn't change a thing. I am in love with our life right now.
Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe, and if you'd like, you can check out my Patreon to see how you can receive exclusive gifts for supporting my channel.